Have you ever put yourself in a position like that? Have you ever been like, what the fuck am I doing here?
There's this Thai place down the street that I'm going to try.
Welcome back to Show Me Yours podcast, everybody.
I'm Jackie Agnew.
I'm Johnny DeVito.
And I'm Ty Wasson.
Goddamn right you are. Who do you got in the studio today, Ty?
Ooh, gang. Pretty excited about this one, all right?
Long time coming.
This man's been, it has been a long time coming. We've been trying to book this for a minute now. Very, very busy man. He's got a couple records out. 2018's release of Above and Beyond. There's a hilarious single, 2021, Joe Rogan, which is a fucking, I love that single, so good. 2022 music comedy record, which bears the question, is there any better guest for this podcast
No doubt.
than this person right now? And then August 5th, this Saturday, coming up, taping at the MOTN. You get your tickets on Eventbrite. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harris Anderson. Let's go.
Oh, thank you. Wow, I'm impressed just hearing that.
Who's this guy? Yeah.
Ooh.
He's been working. You've been up to stuff.
I
Yeah.
didn't know I was so busy.
Doesn't feel like it at home when you're just...
Not at all. I wish I was busy.
Well, look at you. You are busy. You're out here on a beautiful Saturday. Coming to grace us with your presence.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, we have been trying to coordinate this for a hot minute now.
Yes.
I think, we've had quite a few times.
We
had
kind
to
of each
reschedule this.
individually got sick at different times.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
which leads me to believe I feel like this goes back to like February, March.
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
think,
Yeah.
because when I got sick and
But then look at this.
Yeah.
Our man right here has got a taping coming out this Saturday.
Perfect timing.
And he's going to do the
Yeah.
little media row, as
Yeah.
it were. Trust me,
Yeah,
the
you're
pop
making-
you'll get from tickets after doing
Oh,
the Show
Trust
Me
me,
Yours
yeah.
Let me
It's,
tell you,
it won't be an
Vancouver
issue.
Punk
Yeah.
rock community, come out and see this show. We got a few listeners. I was
Yeah.
just at a show
Yeah.
a block away from the MOTN. So you guys know where Green Auto is. This is just down the road.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Very exciting. You must be getting pretty excited about it. Are you pumped? Are you nervous? Are you...
Oh,
Obviously not your first rodeo, but...
well, no. I mean, I've never done a special before, but I got some really great some friends of mine joining me. So Sam
Nice.
Tonning,
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
my best friend, and Jacob Samuel, who's a good friend of mine and Juno award-winning comedian. So
Yeah.
I'm not doing it alone.
That's
So
good.
they'll be there
Yeah.
for doing their thing. So it should be good.
Yeah, it sounds like an awesome show.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I've always been a pretty big fan of you. When I first started stand-up, I remember watching you do musical comedy, which is great because to me, I'm on the fence about it. I'm like, it's usually really good or it's very bad.
Ty's just
And you're-
dipping his toes. He doesn't know.
Just
what's
kind
going
of,
on.
I'm just
Just
kind of dipping
like,
my toe. But you were a guy that I saw that I was like, oh, it is doable to do it like this, like because it's just good. I saw you. I remember seeing you at I think Alex Byron was running this room. It was on Kingsway at like a little. It used to be like a
yeah.
little Portuguese little
Yeah.
restaurant, and then this woman kind of took it over and tried to have it. It was like the smallest little square stage, and you went up and you played your Neil Young song, which was like the funniest fucking thing I had ever seen ever.
thanks.
It was so good, and you're very good. Like you're good. You're proficient at your instrument as well, which is very cool.
Man, I'm flattered. Well, thanks.
Hell yeah. How often are you getting up and doing musical comedy? Because in the years that I've seen you up there, I've never seen you perform music.
You know, just kind of the logistics sometimes get in the way. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, you know, like you don't feel like, you know, like hauling a guitar across town and then you normally have to get there early and
Sure.
get set up and then like so many times I'm like, come on out, bring your guitar, and then you bring it out and then like they don't have the setup for it.
Right.
Or it just sounds like you know, sounds terrible, and you're like, this sounds like a junior high talent show. And so, but I'm always kind of working on. I haven't found a way to blend them yet. I think I'm just kind of in my own way. I got a show coming up. I'm doing a show at the Roxy with Julie Kim and some other great people, and I'm gonna try to throw a song in at the end. I'm starting to
Nice.
use backing tracks more as opposed to actual.
Yeah.
Well, a great venue to do it
yeah.
at. They've got one of the best sound systems in the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They've
So backing tracks might be the way to go. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think venue dependent. It's also like if you're not doing a substantial amount of time or a decent amount of time, it does
It's
feel
hard
like
to-
like I'm either doing all of this, like it's a song or two,
Yeah.
or You know what I mean? It's hard to be like, oh, I'm going to do 2 minutes of comedy and then do this song real quick.
I mean, I'm still,
Yeah.
I'm still at the level where most of my spot lengths are, 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
minutes is like a longer set.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
20
like,
minutes is
For
long.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I say
throw
the
it-
longest.
yeah, trying to squeeze it into like a 10-minute set or
yeah,
like the.
it's just too much hopping around. Sometimes I feel
Yeah.
that's how I explain it to myself.
Yeah, I think that's because it's hard.
You're helping me out too. I'm like,
Yeah.
I like everything this guy.
I think-
It's certainly not just laziness.
Oh,
Yeah. no. It's an artistic thing. Yeah.
well, I mean, I understand time constraints. I talk way I'm trying to pack too much into the thing. Actually, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Ty made me laugh so hard because I was getting a light and just running it because I'm like, I haven't finished my thought yet. And I said, I'm just trying to land the plane. And Ty goes, you're the only comic I know that says he's going to land the plane and circles the airport 3 more times before you come down. So like, I completely understand not wanting to like switch and go into music or whatever. But do you have you noticed that people are they, like say like a green room full of comics or whatever, when you're the guy bringing the guitar, do you ever catch any of the jeers or anything like that, or has everybody been pretty supportive?
Sam Tonning, my friend, teases me by saying, "Oh, like where I show up with the guitar, he's like, oh, you brought your act."
Yeah.
I'm like, shut up.
Because that shame is very real though.
Well, people are usually they say like. Something like, which is kind of flattering, but it sounds like they sometimes people get like so worked up. They're like, I can't follow that. Like, it's like
totally.
no one's ever done a show with someone with a guitar before, and then they always do fine. I remember, headlining with some co-headlining with some comic at the Vancouver Yuck Yucks when it existed, and like I ended with a song, and he was like blindsided. He was like, how am I gonna follow that? And then he just went out and he killed it. He did great. People just kind of make up these blocks in their mind. It's all entertainment.
But I take it on though. I take on their block because I did it. I was at Bully's studio. Shout out to Bully's. So I was like, I like to do a musical number there because I'm like, it's a punk rock jam space. It makes sense for the whole thing. But then I was like, I get to do a guest spot over at HSL. I was like, it's just a guestie. So I rolled in and it was Craig Conant. And I'm like, I'm not planning on playing my guitar for this 5-minute guest spot. But I had my guitar with me, and I made sure to not throw it in the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what?
I'm not doing it.
Comics think so narrow, and they have this idea that it's all entertainment, and we're clowns. That's all we are.
Yeah. He did not give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like no one brought it up. It wasn't a whole thing. The other guy, Eric Freeman, who ended up opening, used to be the manager for Sublime. Like it could have been actually really good.
Yeah, it could have been a great opportunity.
I just went in there just like, let's just hide this thing so they don't think you're gonna do it.
Whatever gets last, whatever your thing is, like juggling music, whatever, do it. Hundreds of years ago, we'd all be wearing like hats with bells on them.
Totally.
Doing this for some king or whatever.
Yeah.
We're clowns.
Yeah,
Let's not glorify it.
And it feels like a lot of the comics who will be upset about that, it almost feels like looking for an excuse before you even go on for not doing as well as you wanted to. You're like, oh well, I had to follow the guy singing. Of course, I didn't do well.
It's something so silly to hold so pure, like, you know what I mean? There's like a comedy purist or whatever. Like, can we stop taking it so goddamn seriously? You know what I mean? I think
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, right. Because I always I like a hard follow. You know what I mean? Like nothing gets you, feeling like now you have to perform. You know what I mean?
The attitude of God forbid the show is good.
Yeah,
totally.
It's crazy to me. You know what I mean? Like, this is horrible. Everyone's doing well.
Yeah. Well, it's like people don't want to follow someone that just crushed, but they also don't want to follow someone that just bombed. And so it's like you're just looking for that sweet spot of someone doing kind of good.
Yeah, exactly. Because you need to I think that's the best part of it is that I walked into a show on Tuesday, maybe a little too comfortable for a room that was a little bit weird. High ceilings and fucking. A fucking arcade on the other side of the curtain, and the whole thing was just kind of weird, or maybe being too comfortable. I need a little bit of I don't know, something to kind of get the fire going or whatever, I guess. So I think any opportunity you can do that, because if somebody does just crush, you can grab onto that rocket ship and it makes your job a little bit easier. And if somebody just bombs, then you can kind of have fun with that as well too, right? So I think it's all good.
I'd rather be on a show where everyone is killing.
Fuck
and
yeah.
if someone has like, and it's happened to me many times, someone before you has like an exceptional set, and you just get up and say, "Wow, wasn't that person great?" Like, just acknowledge it.
Totally.
Because
Exactly,
you
yeah.
can't bomb after that, just because people. There's kind of a thing like, "Oh, you're not the last person."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you just acknowledge, "Wow, that person was great," you know, like, hope I'm funny.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that sort of
yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
exactly.
It's everyone.
Yeah.
It's very competitive. Everyone wants to be the best on every show. Everyone wants to kill it. And that's why
Yeah.
you do it. Right?
Totally.
Yeah, we're inherently selfish.
Oh my
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the competition between the two of us or whatever is subtle, but
I'm not even gonna imagine the kind of head games you.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
much of a competition.
it really isn't.
Say
It really isn't. I get a lot of U2s, you know what I mean? We perform together a lot, so like after the show we'll be standing together. It's like,
You're
you were the
great.
funniest, you're the greatest comic ever, and then you two.
You were good too.
Oh yeah.
We've all been there.
Which is which is perfect. You know, I think it was the Spanish woman one time that was just like hyping you up, and then she turned to me and looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Your girlfriend's funnier than you," and then just went back to complimenting you,
Oh, wow.
which was awesome. You know what I mean? Which is really good, and it's you know, humility is important in life. Right?
No one can cut you like a woman.
To say that I don't lay in bed and think about it sometimes. You know what I should be doing is writing jokes. Prove her wrong. So how far back does music and comedy go? Like, I kind of want to know like the origins of this. Have you always been kind of writing silly songs?
When did you start
or-
playing music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started with I had violin lessons when I was a kid. So I did like 3 years of violin, and
Damn.
it wasn't really for me. And then my sister was having piano lessons, so I got to kind of tag along with that.
Older sister, younger sister.
My younger sister.
Okay.
Both my younger sisters play piano, and so I did piano for a while. And then when I was around 13, I started to, develop my own musical taste and get more into like rock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I started playing guitar.
What's this guitar about?
What's
yeah.
this guitar?
Yeah.
This
I can
geek
bring
box.
this thing around and not the whole.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, so I started playing that, and so I've been playing music for
What was your
the
first?
amount of lessons I've had. I will say I should be like Mozart, like my poor parents.
What was your first guitar? Do you remember?
There was this old Raven classical guitar that was
Yes.
hanging around my grandparents' house. I don't think anyone knows where it came from, but
That's awesome.
I just kind of like plucked at it, and then I got it restrung, and that was my first guitar. And it was
Yeah.
just this little cheap. I still have it somewhere. And then I got some. I got a J Tercer. My first like electric guitar was a J Tercer.
Yeah.
That was like a real entry level guitar. A J Tercer electric guitar. And the first serious guitar I got was a Simon and Patrick acoustic, which I still have.
They're great.
Yeah, they're great.
like
It's
'em.
Thai approved.
I
yeah.
like them.
So I've been playing music a
Canadian
long
made
time.
look.
The musical comedy, I only started really doing that. I mean, I wanted to be when I was a kid and a teenager and into my 20s. I wanted to be a serious like songwriter. All my heroes were serious songwriters, but you have to be really cool to do that. And it just was like it just doesn't. I don't know.
You don't have enough time for heroin and all those things to get.
Yeah, it's a whole.
I don't know. It just never really worked out, and like I always wanted to be in a band so desperately. I still do, but like it just never came together. It seems like these things almost happen when you hear like how bands are formed. It's like it just kind of is like almost destined,
Yeah.
and you can't like will it in place. It just kind of happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm kind of being long-winded about this. Sorry.
No,
But
no,
it's
please.
there was this
platform.
there was this open mic called Seven Dining. This place called Seven Dining Lounge doesn't exist anymore. It was a very popular open mic, and they had a piano there. And one day, I just kind of started fooling around with it. I think during a set, I just did some stupid thing on it, and it kind of just grew from there. And then I was like, oh well, next time I might write a song and try that. And so I started writing songs, and then this was only about let me think, like. What year is it? I'm like Robin Williams in Jumanji. This was like
Shot in our hometown.
yes, that's true. 8 or 9 years ago, I guess. So yeah, and that's where it started, and then first I had kind of an uneasy relationship with it because like my stand-up people would be like, yeah, And then, but the music got like a big reaction because it was like a little variety, I guess. And you know, you've been at open mics a while. It's
Yeah.
like the third hour, people are kind of looking for any kind of
We
variety.
talk about
They're
something
like,
other
"Oh."
than cum right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, this guy's single too, hey? Weird.
Yeah, especially in an open mic setting when it's like there's people like just there like to eat or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but I've kind of just learned to kind of embrace it. Once in a while, it's good because you know, stand up can kind of make you insane. So it's nice to have something that you can do that's comedy related.
Totally.
You don't feel like it's cheating or anything.
Yeah.
And I've done that for a couple of projects that I've been involved in. And I did the EP last year, which was
What was the recording process like? Have you like been into like a studio before, recorded any of your own music?
Yeah,
before
so
this?
on my first comedy album, there was 3 songs we did, and the producer Kevy, he's produced both my album. Kevy from the band Fake Shark, he's a fantastic guy and a great producer and a great musician, and he produced my first album and the EP I did, and so. The first album, it was kind of like, you know, a learning curve because I'd never really recorded before.
Sure.
Bless his heart, he's a very patient dude. And so I learned from the first few recording sessions, and I came in more prepared for the EP and stuff. I was like, I'm not going to make you sit there while I try to iron out some stupid guitar part. So
Yeah, this is expensive practice time.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, dude, for sure.
Yeah. And you realize things like, okay, I'm not Eric Clapton. I can't just produce. If I'm going to do a guitar solo, I need to think of it beforehand.
Yeah, it's not just going to come out.
And but by the end of the EP, I think it was like we got pretty good at it. We had a pretty smooth process.
It sounds
was
great.
fun.
Awesome.
It sounds awesome. And it's fucking funny too, right?
Yeah.
Kind of growing up with like Adam Sandler records and all that kind of stuff. Like it should be more, and if you have the skills, then it like definitely flex. Do you have any plans on doing doing a follow up or doing more of them?
You know, I kind of did some. It was a long process just to make those 5 songs, and I kind of burned myself out on it for a bit. But I've started writing more songs now.
Nice.
I have a couple of things like in the future, just kind of floating around the ether. But I'm kind of getting back into it. I don't actually write that many comedy songs, but when I get in the mood, I kind of try to harness it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Are you going to do any songs in your special coming up?
I haven't decided yet. It's only a week away, so I should probably. I'm not sure. I want to keep it brief. I know I don't want to have like an hour, and because attention spans are brief nowadays. As it is, so.
And I love like a half hour, like those like Comedy Central half hours and stuff like that. I love shorter specials like that too.
I'm shooting for 45 minutes.
I think
That's
45 is the
absolute
sweet
most.
spot.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the sweet spot for sure.
So we'll see if it works out, but we'll see what happens.
Awesome.
Yeah. Dude.
Yeah. Well,
What
speaking of,
what are you playing right now? Are you playing a Martin right now? Guitar?
No, I play my go-to guitar is a excuse me, a Taylor.
A Taylor, that's what it is.
214 Grand Auditorium, I think it is.
Yeah, because
I can't remember the model number.
You've
but
had that for a minute though, right?
I bought that because I was starting to get more paid gigs, and I was like, I was just using my Simon and Patrick, and I was like, which wasn't an acoustic electric.
Okay.
So it was like miking it was a pain and everything. I was like,
yeah.
Well, I think I could justify now spending a little money. So
especially at comedy clubs, it's like you need 2 mics.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know if we can do
it's
that.
Just like, and it's like,
I don't know.
Just a headache. And so I got a really nice acoustic electric. My friend Sam again helped me pick it out, and it's just a beautiful guitar. I love it. I wasn't a big Taylor guy, but now I'm an absolute convert.
The Taylor and the Martin section of any guitar store is the best smell imaginable to man. It's like I don't know. There's something about the varnish. I don't know what.
something about the varnish.
I don't know. It's like I don't know what it is. Just the wood and like it just. They're both like when you get into that like. Usually they have the acoustics. There's a sliding door involved. You know what I mean? There's a whole other section of. Because they're a whole different clientele, I feel like. They're not the dude who's going to go play Stairway at the fucking... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Need
It's not like...
V's and shit in here.
100%. He's like, brother, you get these flying V's coming any other colorways?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the acoustic section of any guitar store is always like a great time. Or if you can or if you're lucky enough to go to one that's kind of specializes in that, like Rufus Guitars.
Sure.
Shout out to Rufus Guitars here. It's always really nice acoustic instruments that smell like nice wood.
I was going to say, how do they smell though?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
It's a commercial, right?
That one is, yeah.
It is, yeah. Shout out to Andrew Peterson from the Core Works there.
Shout out,
A couple tasty licks coming
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, speaking of music, we can get into the album that you chose for today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Neil Young, Rust Never Sleeps. So what made you decide on this album?
Well, I'm a huge Neil Young fan, and a couple of reasons. I would say for anyone who wants to get into Neil Young, who's not that familiar with his discography, apart from any kind of greatest hits compilation or whatever, I think he has a greatest hits compilation. But I think it's a great entry point because he's experimented a lot, but he basically more often than not falls into two modes, which is the softer, more acoustic side, old man, hard to gold, that sort of stuff, and then
Fucking crazy horse.
and then
Yeah,
the horse
exactly, yeah.
overdrive, Godfather of grunge, like
Sick
really heavy
one-note
stuff.
solos that are just
I
the
was
best.
completely blind to this. I'd never listened to this album. There's sedan delivery at the end. It's not something that I would expect from like Neil Young. I fucking love that song.
Yeah.
Different than what I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it's I find it very interesting sonically because except for 2 tracks, it was all recorded live, and then they took it to the studio and removed the audience track and did overdubs and stuff and finished off in the studio,
Wow.
which gives it a really kind of, you can hear ghosts of the audience here and
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
A
But
little bleed in, but
it's-
nothing.
I don't think I can't think of anyone else doing it since, but it's so distinctive because it has like the raw kind of like the electric stuff especially has the raw kind of ragged feeling of like a live recording, like and in these giant stadiums, but there's just like ghosts of people you can hear. And just like and then it creates kind of I think that's kind of what's been missing from music for a long time, is that sense of people like either recording in the same room or that kind of feeling like this is some kind of combustion happening in real time.
It's so hard to capture that too in a recording studio. Like it just is. More so it's just like it's track by track. They don't really do it right. The thought of even having the drums in the same fucking room as anybody.
Oh yeah,
it's like what? Like and mic placement's not a thing anymore, and all that shit.
Yeah.
But to really, they kind of did the reverse Kiss, where Kiss's
that's
live
what I was gonna say,
Kiss's
it's
live album
strange,
was
yeah.
so bad
yeah.
that they were like, oh my god, we got to re-record this in the studio and then pipe in audience.
Is that what you did?
Yeah, because because apparently it was
wow.
just that bad. Like they just can't fucking play it all together.
Oh, I thought Kiss
But,
Live, that was the whole story. Like they needed to put that live album out to capture the energy of the band, but it was just an ass backwards way.
Yeah, no, they suck apparently.
Well, that's
and-
like that's
I
like
guess that checks out,
like the quick like radio edit version or whatever, but not because it's weird because it seems like on paper like they're like either you do it live or you don't, right?
Yeah.
But this sounds like
it's always great when those
like
live
perfect.
kind of bands can be captured like that. Like Gogol Bordello was one like that for me for sure. And then, but you think about all the people that Neil Young plays with, and at that particular time too, it's like always been people like they're fucking motherfuckers, and they play together so well.
Totally.
So to do that in a live, I didn't know they did that. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does sound super interesting because even listening to it this morning, at the beginning I was like, is this a live album? And I was like, no, it's definitely not. But you can, the audience coming in.
The ghost is a really good way to say
Yeah,
it.
it is, and it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sound like any other album. And just the whole theme of the album is something I find fascinating. The idea of rust being a metaphor for kind of complacency as a creative person, and which like has kind of been a theme in Neil Young's career. Right? He hates he's always producing stuff and he hates repeating himself. And I think that's just for me. That's something I've kind of always tried to go back to, like from whatever I do in my own little creative world. And I think comics can any kind of creative person can take something from that kind of metaphor. I think
Absolutely.
because if you keep doing the same thing, you'll end up like hating yourself.
Totally.
If you're not trying to as a comedian write new bits and or write about how you really feel, even as an actual physical metaphor, if you don't exercise to take care of yourself. You
Totally.
rust, and then it's
yeah.
like you just kind of fall into ruin. And and it just got some great tunes on it. I mean, just Powderfinger. We got My Hey Hey and the inverse Hey Hey My closing it out.
Yeah.
Pocahontas, which is probably my favorite Neil Young
that's
song.
a
Just a
fucking
beautiful, brutal song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the album captures him at his. He probably would hate that, but his peak.
Totally.
But I remember reading a review of it in some archive Rolling Stone thing saying the reviewer at the time said Neil Young can outplay, outsing, and outright anybody right now. And I think if you kind of put the album when it came out in the context of what was going on in music at that time,
1979 was that release?
it would. I think you kind of could arrive at that conclusion because punk was kind of, the Sex Pistols had kind of done the damage, as it were.
Yeah.
There was like punk, but disco, and people were getting tired of disco, and punk was like saying rock and roll is dead.
Yeah.
And there he is defending rock and roll, saying, rock and roll will never
As he
die.
has multiple times.
Yeah.
Really, like once a decade, he usually chimes in and goes, "Hey, let's listen to this. We're fine."
Totally. Yeah.
I think at that time, though, rock music had kind of stagnated a bit.
Well, I think for me, the answer to finding punk the way that I did at a very young age, it was it was the answer to everything else. Where this would have been more of like my parents' stuff or whatever that I was probably rebelling against. My brother was heavy into metal, which I enjoyed the energy and how hard it was, but I didn't like the people behind it or necessarily the message or whatever. You know what I mean? There was a lot more that I could sink my teeth into and agree with. In punk rock, and that did I getting older now, this album wouldn't hit me the same way that it did because I'm a little bit older and I appreciate a lot more stuff, but I was I lived a long time with this kind of theory, if it isn't punk it sucks, because these guys the energy on some of these records, they only had a day in the studio or whatever, so this thing that I hold so dear, they maybe wrote and had you know what I mean, there's that sense of urgency or whatever that that I think is important and to me anyway in any kind of art, which is actually a pain in the ass, because one of my favorite bands that I really kind of identified with as I was growing up and kind of gave me a sense of a moral compass and kind of a right and wrong into things, this band called Anti-Flag, which is very political band.
A great moral compass.
Yes, and absolutely. At their shows, there's they have big banners and stuff. No racism, no sexism, hatred of any kind, homophobia or anything like that. And there's local activist groups that are there and stuff that you can get involved in your own community and stuff like that. They've really been pushing that forward for so long until earlier this week it was a rough sexual assault allegation and stuff. And you're living long enough to see the band completely took all their stuff off social media, and it's even if it's an allegation, it'd be impossible for us to continue and and have the same kind of message and stuff like that. So I'm kind of getting to this age where it doesn't necessarily matter what the idealism is, because humans are still humans and things can and will fall apart or whatever, right? So it's kind of weird because I've I hold this thing at such a high standard, but really these are just individuals that we're talking about. You know what I mean? And somebody can, so it is kind of an interesting week for me. And Milo from the Descendants had a heart attack. Guys, punk rock is not doing good. Milo's on the mend, and good things are happening there. But I'm just glad that I'm kind of getting to an age now, and even doing the show is something so great that I get exposed to shit that I would never go out of my way to listen to, because hey my, of course, when I put the record on, I was oh fantastic, I know this and I can kind of get in here. But by the end of that record, you're I'm kind of blown away in a different way, you know what I mean? The music is great, the song's fantastic, but I kind of this self-reflective moment of being oh shit, I'm old enough to kind of understand this. And it does, especially with Neil Young, he does kind of embody a lot of the same ethos and you know what I mean, the attitude and
he's
stuff
quite
like that.
punk
But I do, he fucking punk as fuck.
Yeah.
Tell
You think about all the
Spotify
shit
to go
he's
fuck
fought
themselves,
for and
you
stuff
know?
over the
Yeah.
years and stuff.
He really does, right? And I think even with Sinead O'Connor and stuff like that, there's so many different ways to be punk without actually just three-chord rock and roll and that's the sound or whatever.
I like that. I could see punk as an attitude, and one of the things I admire about Neil Young so much is that he has this muse, this idea of what he wants to do. He just does it ruthlessly.
Yeah.
If you look at his career, I mean, Harvest and Heart of Gold made him a huge star, and he could have kept churning out Harvest records. And he just said, "Nope, I don't want to do that. I don't." And he just kept doing what he was doing. I mean, there's
But there's that crew of those players at that time too that were like doing all that, like when Dylan Goes Electric, fucking giant, like huge thing, like people like the band and all that stuff. Like you watch all that Last Waltz, and you're like, oh, all these people you could tell were like pushing all of them like at the same time to like keep doing different shit too, which is rad. You're just rolling with all these rad people.
Yeah, and like a little integrity too, because like I mean, for like we joke about it all the time. We are for sale. You know what I mean? I will keep churning out the same thing. But like you said,
Manscaped,
too, like,
we need that sponsorship.
Bring it back.
Let's go.
Fucking bring it back. But there is like you said, like the same thing with like the Rust metaphor or whatever. Is like I'd love to churn out some stuff. Like what I would like to do is just be not have to do my 9 to 5 and just do comedy or whatever. Right. So like the path to that, could be anything, and I would fucking
just sell out first, and then you can revert back to being an artist.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, you gotta put food on the table.
Yeah, exactly. Once you have a lump sum of cash. Yeah.
That Harvest Moon money. That I feel
it's tough. Yeah.
But then to do that is like a Dylan Goes Electric thing. Like, are you going to turn your back on that audience that got you there or whatever, and like go maybe so far from the thing? Like again, going back to the music that I love, I know where to go for like meat and potatoes kind of punk rock. Bad Religion isn't going to give me a different record from what I expect. You know what I mean? Definitely, like a lot of the stuff will, kind of, be. They know the audience that they're playing to, and and the style of music or whatever. It's pretty easy to. I don't want to say like churn out the same records and stuff like that, but it is in the same vein, right? I have a lot of respect for people that would branch out and maybe take that risk, because a lot of times, like as like a diehard of some of these fans, you feel like let down when they're not giving you the same thing that you want. Again, that's just me getting older and accepting other people's artistic choices. Well,
I mean, yeah, and not to like, he's put out records that are atrocious. Like they are. I mean,
it's such a giant discography too. You're like, it's hard to be like,
for anyone that's been doing it that long, they're not all.
Yeah, I just admire that so much. That he's like, I want to do. Like he did an electronica album in 1982 called Trans, and he did. I mean, the Geffen years when he was with the Geffen label are just infamous because he was so obstinate. Like they said, like he said, make a rock and roll record. And he was like, I don't know what that means. Yeah. So he's like, so I made him a throwback like rock and roll record. He made like a rockabilly record, like 1950s.
Awesome.
And they're like, okay, don't ask him to make it.
Be very careful with your words. Yeah.
But I just
pulls
love
up
that.
in a '50s Chevy with a pack of smokes and
I think it's harder as comics. It's harder as comics to follow that though, because one, you get the immediate feedback in the room. Boo, we hate you. Yeah. That joke was horrible or whatever. And then also, you have to get booked and you got to God, there's like I'm ashamed to say I've had plans of what I wanted to do, and I've had to kind of mitigate that or not do what I want to do to get a gig that's gonna pay a little bit of money or whatever. Corporate gigs are kind of like that. But a lot of it's you guys know as well as anyone else, it's ugly. Creativity is like it can be a really ugly process. Sometimes you're churning out garbage, but sometimes that you got to just kind of get it out. Sometimes I'm writing bits and I'm like, this is horrible. This is not funny at all. But it's just like the act of getting it out on paper and saying like, okay, well, I try.
Are you pretty like regimented person? Like, are you like once a day? Like, I sit down for this amount of time, or is it like?
I try to write something about 3 or let's say 4 times a week or so. I try to sit down. I'm working on that kind of different writing project right now, but. Comedy, I mean, we could all write more comedy. Of course. I don't think I've ever talked to a comic who says, like, I'm happy with the amount I write.
I'm doing enough.
No, totally. That? It's like a cloud that like looms over. Like I've the output that and the stuff that like I want to write and I want to talk about. Like my notes section is insane on my phone, but a lot of it needs to be like massaged. I think that like I have a tendency to go long-winded. So there's a lot of topics and things that I want to talk about. Now it's up to like my writing now is what I've been doing lately is like, okay, so I have to look at this fucking manifesto that I've just fucking written and just then try to break it down into smaller chunks and something that is a little bit, more.
It's hard.
Yeah, but trying to streamline the process so that I'm not just like churning stuff out, because if I just sit down like to write, then it becomes, you know.
Well, that's
like,
a lot of what I come home with.
Yeah.
If I go to a coffee shop, I just write stuff, and I get, you know, if I write a bit, I kind of tend to overwrite bits, I think.
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
And it's like you
Yeah,
get a bit
yeah.
that's 4 pages, and you're like,
Well, I can't.
Yeah.
I
or you end
just-
up trying it, and there's
Yeah.
like 2 laughs in it, so you're like, okay, well, where did the laughs happen?
Yeah.
Well, that's,
Let's concentrate on that.
Totally.
That is the hard
Totally.
part too with comedy, is that you do get that immediate feedback, but it's like if you're trying a new bit, like you're just never gonna crush off the top, and so it's trying to decipher like, okay, is this just not doing as well because it's my first time doing it and I'm not delivering it right, or is it just garbage? And it's trying to like decipher like if it's worth continuing to try and how many times you should try it before you just give up.
I mean, it's tough. You got to go through it, but like, I think every creative person that you really admired, who's like kind of been regarded as like a groundbreaker or whatever, has gone through that really uncomfortable period and uncomfortable shows. I mean, there's a great, I think it's Neil Young at Massey Hall. It's like 1972. There's a great recording, and he's playing all these songs that
He literally
would go
wrote
on to
the road like 2 weeks beforehand.
yeah, and they go
It's
on to be
all
classics.
Harvest,
Like he's
essentially.
playing
Wow.
like
That's
Old
crazy.
Man and
For
stuff
the
like
first
that.
time in front
And
of people.
I can't quote him exactly, but he's like, you guys don't really like this, huh? He's like, and then he's just like, well, it's what's going. It's like this is what's coming out.
There's
Yeah.
also a fantastic bit in there. It's one of my favorite artist interactions with the crowd. It is dead silent in there. Okay, it's him with a fucking Martin on stage.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's like, and a piano. I guess he just does play a bit of piano.
Yeah,
I
he
think,
plays
on it.
piano. Yeah.
A couple tracks that are really end up being 3 completely different hits for him. Like
Yeah.
it's like a blending of a bunch of them. It basically is the Harvest album, but he's just playing for the first time. He's like, I wrote all these songs and I don't know what else to do but to play them. And everyone's like, okay.
Yeah.
So there's a photographer in the front row, like snapping. It's the 70s, so it's like, and he goes, he stops. He goes, could you not do that? And it just, the clicks are out of time, and it's ruining everything I'm trying to do up there. He's like, maybe when there's like an applause break or people are clapping or I'm in between songs, then take the photo,
Choose a
okay?
spot.
And then everyone fucking like, yeah, fuck that guy. Like,
Yeah.
I will say that musicians and actors like comics do have kind of bear the worst of it because you have the immediate feedback. And with music and like, because I used to do like theater, like I went to acting school and everything, you can do a dramatic play and you don't have to worry, I'm getting, I hope I'm dramaing hard enough. You know, you're not, unless it's a comedy, then you want to be hearing laughter.
Yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. But you can just do the whole play and you kind of get to enjoy it. People just watch. But in comedy, it's like, you know, if you're not getting the laughs, then you're failing. And that's really brutal because sometimes you're just trying to figure things out and you're trying to communicate an idea. And people, God, the amount of times people just stared at me when I'm like I'm an alien from another planet, and it's like I'm just trying to communicate what I'm thinking or feeling about something, you know. So but you got to go through it. It's
and
part of it.
It's hard.
It sucks.
Yeah. And it is hard when you are trying to work something out and you know that it's not going to crush or whatever, and that's okay, but it's like the people in the room are expecting you to do well because that's why they're coming to a comedy show.
But there is something so funny about it.
Yeah,
like you have
yeah.
to be like, that was, because I used to be mad. I used to get so mad.
Oh,
yeah.
Like just getting like, I'm still new at this, but it's like, I would like be punching bushes, like leaving yuck yucks open like at 1 a.m. like it was so god, fucking and like now I'm like, it went so badly that it's
Yeah.
hilarious. Like it was
Yeah,
so
yeah.
fun.
You
It is.
have
It's
to
good to
embrace
give a
it.
shit enough,
Yeah.
but like it's like, so it is. You can't really call it like the that's always going to be different. Is so funny. Like normally, if I'm trying something new, like the classic way is, you know, chunk it in the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking start from the
Give me
stronger or whatever.
sprinkles of sugar in the middle.
So I fucking went up though, and like my opening shit that the I know this is good. It started every fucking set with it. Didn't land. And
Oh,
the new
man,
shit
that's
did,
the
and they
worst.
land. So like it was all off, and I walked out of there. And like I said, like being in a weird room like that, like you can't fucking hear anything. And I walked out of there and like, you could have told me that I murdered or I bombed, and I have no fucking idea. Yeah. It's that moment where you're dying up there and you know that you're only halfway through, and like this is fucking, this is gonna be a long night.
It is hilarious though when you're like, all right, I'm gonna try something new here, and you slip it in the middle, and then the stuff that you're guaranteed shit you open with, then that bombs, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, this is not gonna be
3 minutes. It's gonna be red.
I'm like 30 seconds into my set and I feel sweat come down my head. It's like, oh no.
At least with music, you have that camaraderie on stage, and you can go over to the bass player and kind of just do
totally.
Yeah.
I've always said it. I'm like, you can suck at guitar. Like you can suck. And someone came and saw you at an open mic playing guitar, and you suck. There's something in front of you that's like, okay, and they're like, okay, he's trying.
Yeah.
Like, hey man,
People
that was a
are
good
much more
try.
forgiving.
Of course.
Totally.
People go to open mic comedy to heckle. Like,
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like it's a
you fucking suck. It's like it's my third time on stage.
Yeah.
Like, you should suck.
That is the thing with comedy shows is that there's a certain group of people who go there with the thought in their head like, this is my time to let people know how I feel. You know, it's like people think like it's totally like cool to to give your feedback in real time to the person on stage, which like doesn't really happen like in a theater, like during a play.
Stand up
like
also has I call it the invisibility skill, where you can't really see what the skill is.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like watch Sam or you or whoever. I'm like, oh, I can see because I do stand up. So it's like, oh fuck this. There's levels to this. Holy shit.
Totally.
But it's like, there's no guitar in front of you to be like, oh wow, I can physically see how proficient you are at moving across that fretboard or across those keys. Where it's like, oh, you just saying funny. I'm funny. I can do stand up.
Totally.
Like, you get that whole fucking vibe.
There are people dumb enough that think you're just coming up with this on the spot.
Yeah.
Like you just wandered
There's a lot
off
of
the
people, I
street.
think.
Yeah.
Good friends
I
of mine.
think
We were
most
drinking
people
after the
think
show.
that,
And my buddy from Australia, I haven't seen him in forever, but he shows up with a good friend, and it's good to see you and this and that. And he's like, that was fucking unreal, man. You're just off the top like that? No. Jimmy, we're buds.
Yeah.
I'm not that clever.
Yeah, it is a funny because again, no one would ever think that you're like if you're up there singing a song that you're just making it up as you go.
This is amazing. Just writing a song in real.
Just freestyling.
And the amount of people too that again like good friends with who will see us perform, they'll be like, so like how often do you do the same jokes? It's like literally every time.
We were just doing a festival out in the Sunshine Coast. Is the first year that they're putting it on with punk rock festival and some metal and stuff called Turbo Fest.
Oh, cool.
And they did comedy before each of the shows each night. So we were out there for 3 days. And Kevin Von Helvet's also on the show and some local comics that they had up there. So we're doing like 20 minutes or something like that. We were kind of like concerned, say at this stage, like I don't have an hour to cycle through or whatever, right? So you're kind of thinking like, I hope this is not the same audience on the Sunshine Coast for all 3 of these shows. We got lucky, and I was like thinking about that. And I'm actually doing a show opening for some bands that I'm like very excited about, but I'm talking to the guy that's promoting it, and I just realized that I'm biting off a lot more than I've chewed before. So I'm doing 15 minutes in between each of these things, and I'm basically going to be doing an hour by the end of the evening.
You'll learn so much though.
Which is going to be great.
Yeah, if I have one regret, it's that I had I turned down a lot of opportunities like that because I thought, like, I don't have that time. I don't. But that's how you come up with it.
Exactly. Yeah, you're
You'll
forced to.
surprise yourself.
Totally.
And so good for you. That's great.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. September 7th at the Wise Hall, Belvedere, Blacked Out, Core, and Wrong. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm very stoked to come. We need that. I was hoping that it was going to be a home game because I'm a member of this community. A lot of punks are friends of mine and stuff. But Outhouse Records just started their Outhouse Records officially, and they're doing a festival that weekend. So all my buddies are playing at this other festival.
Wow.
Not a home game. So please come out.
You guys have roots in the punk.
I've tried to be a part of the community for like a very long time, and now that we've done the show, just like interviewing other bands and things like that, so now I'm at the point where people that I've looked up to for a really long time are just like friends of ours. We don't get recognized anywhere in town unless we go to a punk show, so it's awesome.
This podcast is definitely way more popular in the punk rock community than it is in the comedy community.
Oh,
Like-
absolutely. Yeah.
It's kind of been this cool, like, and full circle thing. I used to run Pat's pub, so it was like we just do a ton of punk shows. It's like a lot of times like people coming over, and I'm like, oh, fuck it, what's up,
Yeah.
dude? Like, I haven't
Yeah.
seen you forever. Like, so yeah, it's been fucking pretty cool. And since we've had a couple like bands on, obviously, it's we've leaned into that, obviously. And,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I
But
think
it's been such a great it's been awesome.
definitely.
Yeah, well, and because of like again what we were saying, like the whole like ethos of comedy is so self-centered and like individualistic, whereas like in music and in punk specifically, it's so community based, and so they really just in general are so much more supportive, want to get the word out, will share with friends, where it's
Totally.
like comedians don't
No,
really
yeah,
care.
it's-
Comedians will tell you that.
Yeah,
And I think that's the thing in the sense of like finding your own audience and stuff. Like I really follow all the bands that I love and all these, things like I buy new records and I support the things that I like, and I kind of find that in that community a lot. So if there's like if finding your audience or whatever is just basically trying to find a way that I can, shoehorn myself into the thing that I already love, and then hopefully they'll dig me as well, then that's like the goal or whatever would be to tour with some of these guys and what I mean, get on and kind of take that on the road a little bit, because
That's great.
yeah, if I'm gonna open for somebody, I'm the easiest opening act ever. Me and Jackie to fucking tie in a band, be done. We're not packing in gear or anything like that, right? So I think that's I just want to do something that's a little bit of a different route and challenge yourself to do something a little bit different than the wild west of Vancouver comedy out here, where it's either a bar show or maybe a club show here and there, right? You don't really get the opportunity to work as much as we'd like to, so like trying to make your own opportunities and things like that has become something that I've always wanted to do. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, it's great. I wish you guys luck, and that's a great philosophy to have. I think it's more lessons to take from Mr. Young. It's like,
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
push
Yeah.
yourself and get yourself out there and be uncomfortable.
Totally.
And put yourself out in the wilderness. That's great.
Have you ever
I mean,
put
more
yourself in a position like that? Have you ever been like, what the fuck am I doing here?
There's this Thai place down the street that I'm going to try.
Bob loves Thai.
Hey, Bob loves Thai. Like, it's the only
Have you ever
Thai
ate there?
restaurant. Of course I have.
Oh,
yeah.
is it good?
It's not bad.
Oh, I'm just
It'll-
nothing against the Thai people. I love Thai food.
Good save.
Coconut
Yeah.
curry like a motherfucker. Let's go.
That pad.
I'm
Pad
trying
Thai?
to. The last few years, I've been trying to. My material's gotten a lot darker, and I've kind of adopted this ethos of I try to not let an audience see me bleed, which is that if a bit does not go well, I don't like. I'm trying to not allow myself to let any kind of
They
when
don't want to
you're
see it on your face that you
yeah,
fucked
you're like,
up or whatever.
Oh,
okay.
totally.
Yeah.
Well, just to kind of put it out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
It's kind of like
Yeah.
when like
Good.
I remember this from music days of like I would fuck up playing
Yeah.
or some of that, but it's like you playing for enough times where it's like you can kind of just it's not noticeable really to the
Yeah.
most people, but
Yeah.
it is noticeable when you make a face
Yeah.
that you've just
Yes.
fucked up.
yeah.
So it's like that's what people notice. They didn't notice that you fucked up. They're literally
Yeah.
looking at your face, being like, "Oh,
Split
fuck."
second acknowledgement of, ooh, that
Yeah.
didn't go as well. You
Where it
know,
was like,
right?
I remember having
Yeah.
teachers tell me that. They're like, "Yeah, but if you just don't have that face, then no one knows."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is such a crutch, and I'll do it all the time. If like a bit doesn't go well, to like kind of make a joke out of it, to acknowledge it, like, oh, you guys didn't like that one or whatever, like the classic, and I'll get like a chuckle or whatever. But yeah, I think it's
Sitting in it a little more.
exactly, and just being like, you know what, no, like, I think that there's a part of me that finds this really funny, so I'm not gonna like back down from it. I think that's kind of a more noble way to go at it that I try to do more. But it's so hard when you're on stage and you're like, you guys, you didn't like that one, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you just want that.
Yeah.
This is
want to
what
be loved.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
saying kind of like Neil Young. This is what's going, and this is
Yeah.
what I'm producing. And if you don't
Yeah.
like it, someone else will be on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally 5 minutes.
Tim
Yeah.
fucking Williams said so. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I laughed so goddamn hard. He just acknowledged that the joke didn't work, and something. I'm not gonna fucking try to.
That
repeat
was
it.
a
It
that was a
butchered.
long walk for a short drink of water.
Oh, that's fucking. That's another one.
Oh yeah,
But he'd said the thing that you'd like. If you didn't like that, then somebody of your taste will be up here. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I laughed so goddamn hard. But it's that cool acknowledgement of,
yeah.
hey, this is what's happening.
Norm
Yeah.
Macdonald, when Norm Macdonald passed, one of my my favorite comedians ever. some guy shared this story about how when he was at Yucks and he was still pretty green, he would go and like he would bomb and like bomb terribly.
Mm-hmm.
Then he would go stand when the show was over. He would go stand by the exit and personally like say goodbye to everybody.
I love that.
Like, yeah, I was up there bound. Yeah. You guys have a good night, right?
Yeah.
It was just something he had to do, just to be like. I think he was kind of showing the audience like,
I don't give a fuck.
I don't give
I
a
don't
fuck.
care.
Yeah.
Like your opinion does not matter.
Totally.
Yeah.
I like what I'm doing. type
Hell
of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, this is for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Norm
That's-
Macdonald, Bernie Mac way to do it. I ain't scared of you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's just him doing. He's like, I'm big boned it.
DJ, hit it.
Just plays the hip.
Yeah, no, that is I mean, yeah, it's part of what made like Norm like so exceptional is that you could tell he truly not only didn't care when he was bombing, he kind of enjoyed it, you know? It was just
perverse.
Yeah.
Right? If you can have him in the pocket, like we're taking this walk, whether you like it or not, and like to enjoy that is fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
Like Jim Brewer's story about him at like the University of Iowa or something. Whenever they were,
I don't know if I remember this one.
This is like the peak of his SNL stardom, and you know, him and Jim Brewer and I think someone else, maybe Rob Schneider, were doing this concert in I think it was for the University of Iowa, and it was like a family-friendly show or whatever, and so like, you know, everyone's kind of doing their thing and like keeping it PG. But like Norm doesn't want to keep it PG. Like Jim Brewer tells his story. I'm quoting Jim Brewer, like quoting Norm Macdonald. Like Norm goes out there and he's like, yeah, like two gay guys, you know, like they're someone's, you know, getting, you know, but like, how do you decide? Because like one guy's like, you know, he's getting like, that hurts, but you know, the other guy's like, that feels pretty good, you know, like, and like just horrified, and the governor banned him from the state, I think.
Oh my
Like-
god.
He had to leave the state.
It's the fucking
that's
coolest
hilarious.
accolade out of anything. This is the
It's
best.
the opposite of receiving the keys to the city. Yeah.
I put that in my credits. I make him say that
Yeah.
shit before I was on stage.
Yeah.
This guy's not even allowed in Iowa.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. I think that was obviously a very G-rated version of what actually.
I'm
That's a
sure
very
yeah.
Harris way to say
I'm
it.
sure, yeah, went into much
Yeah.
more details. Yeah.
Do you find that because like you're saying that your newer stuff is darker, but
Yeah.
I've never like seen you as like a very like dirty comedian, and you're talking about corporate gigs and stuff. Do you find
Yeah.
yourself to like work clean or?
For corporate gigs, I work clean.
Yeah.
I don't actually do a lot of what I would call dirty stuff. I just kind of like to talk about whatever's going on in the world, and there's a lot of
There's a lot of dark shit
there's a
going
lot
on.
of dark
Dark
stuff
shit.
going on in the
Totally.
world.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, there's bad people out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, the news is pretty dire these days. It's all like, you know, the oceans are boiling and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I like to read the news and stuff like that.
But you
And-
can't read it on social media anymore.
Yeah, that is the most ridiculous thing ever.
That was crazy.
Wait, what's
Yeah.
this?
Like
Apparently,
Canada
yeah, that's
banned news on social media.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, which I mean, like those news like websites still exist and stuff, but I find like through like doom scrolling and like whatever you call just like killing time or whatever, like on social media, like the news that I take in, I'm not like reading full articles. Like I would say, like I'm a headline and first paragraph guy, and I just fucking get the gist of it, and then I'll
Yeah.
go to a bar and tell you like it's fact. Like, I'm fucking telephone
You're that
type
guy.
for, yeah, I'm bad for it. It just is.
Yeah.
It just kind of is what it is. So like if it's weird because it seemed like they wanted to get like ad revenue or something like that. Like I don't know exactly like the details of why they ended up doing it, but it doesn't feel like like they're like we're getting blocked from information by any means. I think you just have to like go to like a news site to get your news.
Yeah.
Rather than
Or get a newspaper.
Yeah,
We still sell
exactly,
newspapers.
right.
I mean, obviously we get into every news service having their own biases. Of course they do. But I just kind of like to talk about what I'm thinking about. And, you know, as someone who tries to keep up to date on current events or whatever.
But that's one thing I really liked about you. Like, I watched you before I did comedy, so it was like I've seen you do like, you know, whatever quote unquote dirty set, and I've seen you work clean, and I've seen you do musical comedy, but it's always just funny.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
that's very
like
kind of you.
It's but that's such a great thing for people that I know are level to see to be like, oh, you can. So many people are just like, I stick to this one thing or lane, and I'm a dirty comic. And like, I only do these crazy alt show or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
And then the other end of that spectrum too is like, I'm squeaky clean, and I don't like any dirty things at all, or talking about crazy shit. And it's like to just be funny in all those realms and to be able to do all those shows is commendable and something to shoot for.
Well, thanks, man. I mean, I think you should have different kinds of material for different things. I mean, sometimes you get asked to do a friend's birthday party and there's a kid there and you can't do your regular stuff. But I don't really do a lot of sex stuff or just because I just never really found it just wasn't really a good fit for me. Like I'm not a Quaker or anything, but it just I feel like people are kind of doing that and they do it well enough that I don't need to get my head in there and a funny joke is a funny joke if it's whatever color it is. I think I find myself talking about death a lot, which is and like I'm not like a member of a death cult or anything. I don't worship it, but I feel like that's something that people. I mean, it's like the only thing that we all share as human beings. One day we're not going to be here.
Extremely relatable.
But people. I find that when you're at a show, if you're like, do you want dark stuff? And you're like, yeah, they really mean like dirty. They want dirty stuff. But there's nothing.
100%. No. I just wanted you to say fuck a whole bunch of times.
There's nothing dark about sex.
Talk about pussy.
You know that thing that gives us pleasure? Forbidden areas.
Are you ready to get dark? Yeah.
You know how that thing you do with another human being that makes you feel loved and is pleasurable?
God, he's so dark.
Oh, he's dark.
This guy is
Then you come up there with existential dread and
you actually get dark and they're like,
go back to the fucking.
But it's it's funny because it's such a huge part of. It's just part of life. It's going to end one day, and it could end in it could end when I leave here. Who knows, right?
That would be,
it's so fragile.
We might get the bump for the pod.
I was going to say, that'll be our most watched episode ever,
He's about to record a second album? Oh, man.
I see the tactic. He comes back on the 6th, like, I'm alive.
I didn't even know we had packs of street dogs in this area. They tore Harris to shreds.
Oh, dude, we're South Van. There's wild dogs around here. A couple cats, too.
That's funny, like the camp that you kind of like choose because the comedy that I like is the stuff that what I mean that I like to do. But we were just at this festival, and I mean these are like dirty punk rockers that haven't showered a little while or whatever, and it's very clear like maybe I guess like dirty. I don't really know what it was, but after getting off stage, I think following Jackie, the girl that was hosting it was like, "You're not that dirty," and I'm like, no, because she's fucked up. It's like, she's tainted my whole thing.
Heavy on the taint.
I've never been trying to keep up. I'm just like not just writing bits that are covered in cum.
I saw David Tell with some comics in 2019. David Tell, like one of the, in my opinion, one of the
absolutely, of
course.
And we saw 2 shows at this club in Tacoma, and it was David Tell, but it really wasn't like dirty at all. I don't think he even really cursed.
Wow.
But it was it was dark. Yeah. But it was like, it was amazing. It really was not like you can do, and that's kind of what I do when I kind of run this on and off show with Simon King called the Dark Room, which is kind of what we kind of try to do is it's dark stuff, but because people don't tend to think there's a difference between dark and dirty, but dark is just kind of more dealing with, I think, more
shit that people don't actually want to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You should buckle up and promote the show the way that you do. Like, here's a full stop. Know what you're getting into before you get into it.
That's kind of what the special will be, I think. I'm kind of trying to get a lot of darker stuff out there that kind of is not as palatable for regular people, but clean. I just kind of try to. The challenge I kind of set for myself is if I go dark, can I keep it like clean?
Yeah.
Can I keep it PG? Well, not really PG.
Yeah, but it's a tightrope walk like that. Like it's really interesing way to go.
Can it be rated R, but just for horrifying content?
Not for language. Yeah.
Not for language. No salty words.
Yeah, it's Hitchcock.
But at the end of the day, funny is funny. If you're dirty and it's funny, it's funny.
Well, and it's just like about like the best comedians are the people who are like themselves on stage, and it's like people who try to just do like, oh, I'm only a dirty comic or whatever. It's like, well, that's not the only facet of your personality.
Exactly.
So you're just like leaving all this other stuff on the table
Yeah,
that like
open
could
up a
be
little bit.
hilarious. It's like, yeah, most of the shit that I talk about is like on the dirtier side, but then like
You caught me
I-
jerking off, and now we're gonna hear about that.
yeah,
Well, I heard about it.
but then like I have like the one of my favorite new bits that I've been doing is about like how my family followed the Blue Man Group on tour, which is not
Exactly. Yeah,
dirty
yeah.
at all, and it's one of my favorite bits, and it does really well
You
too.
bookend
It's
it
like-
with the wildest shit.
yeah, exactly. And so it's like, imagine I was like, well, that's a super funny story, but I can't talk about it on stage because it doesn't fit
Doesn't fit
my
my-
brand.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right? You're doing yourself a
Yeah.
disservice. at that
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
Yeah.
no, yeah, it's easy to get caught in that thinking like this isn't. I find myself doing that like this is too too generic or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just do it. It's
Exactly,
no
yeah.
one cares.
Yeah.
Just care about the
Instead,
results.
No one gives
Exactly.
a fuck.
It's
Yeah.
like, and if someone does care, then if a comic is like, oh, that's not very, tell them to
Fuck off.
Yeah,
I'm
fuck
saying,
off.
nerd.
Yeah.
go write your own stuff.
Kick
Exactly,
rocks, you
yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
nerd.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fucking that's a fantastic way to put it. Are we rounding the hour?
Yeah, we're at the top of the hour.
Fantastic. Here's I mean we kind of pumped everything up. Saturday is a special taping. You got anything else?
This
that you
will be
wanna
out on
plug?
Monday.
Oh, as
yeah.
of Monday, that's the
Yeah.
plan. Yeah.
Go on Eventbrite. Buy your goddamn
Yeah,
tickets.
we'll
Yeah.
have it all linked below.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Oh,
I
of
appreciate
course.
Hell
it.
yeah,
Of
man,
course,
dude. You have
yeah.
open door policy. This is fantastic. Come on back.
Oh, I'd love to.
Anytime. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd love to if God allows it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
There's a pack of dogs sitting out there just licking their chops right now. So.
I can hear them growling.
yeah. Yeah, all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This
Fantastic.
was
Cheers,
awesome.
It's a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Peace.